That guy for sure listens. The Pasha of the week, as you all know, we have two Pashas, Achrey and Kdoshim. And we will mention a couple of things from each Pasha, and hopefully draw something significant, something that will give us an insight on our own life, on our own avodah, and our own progress. The first Pasha is Achrey. In Achrey, the first section, the first part, speaks about the Aveda on Yom Kippur. That on Kippur, this is the exclusive time for the Kohen Gadol. Not only the Kohen Gadol can do the Aveda on Yom Kippur, and this is the only time in the year that even the Kohen Gadol can enter the Kdoshim, the holiest place, and so forth. All the various the highest and the purest level of avodah that exists for us. The end of the Pasha, which you haven't gotten to yet, because that you'll learn basically tomorrow, speaks about real lowly things that people can fall into, impurities. And both of these things are in the same Pasha. And another thing, even more interestingly, on Yom Kippur, we learn the Torah twice, in the morning and in the afternoon by Mincha. Both of these times we learn from this Pasha from Achrey. The first time we learn from the first half and talks about the Aveda of Yom Kippur. And the second time we learn by the end. It talks about the lowly things that people can fall into. You would think that if a person is in such a high state of Yom Kippur, in such a high purity, where does he come? Why do you have to talk to him about lowly things, abominations, discussing things? And the Torah comes right to it and says clearly, and even on Yom Kippur, just on the contrary, a person cannot trust himself. He can be very high and very pure, and on the contrary, in his purity, he's so elevated and so excited about how he feels, he doesn't realize how he's falling down. And when a person is pure, is on a high level, what happens is he can't see his own faults. He can't see that he can possibly do anything wrong. And all of a sudden, everything looks right. So the Torah clearly tells us, yes, you have to work on yourself and you have to raise yourself, but never do you let go of watching yourself. You can't trust your Yetzer Hara. You have to keep it always in front of you. Always remember, you can be fooled, you can be drawn into the wrong thing. And then all the purity gets impure again. The Torah begins this latter, the second part of the parsha, by saying, Moshe Rabbeinu is told by Hashem to tell the Yidden that I am your God, and you should not follow in the ways of the Egyptians. You should not follow in the ways of the Egyptians. K'masei Eretz Mitzrayim, like these of the Egyptians, you should not do. You should not duplicate their ways. Now, again, the same thing. Egypt is a place where the Eden lived. They have seen it all. They broke away from it. And then they were elevated from it. And they saw, they personally experienced the lowliness of the Egyptian life and the superiority of the life that they were put into. This is not something strange to them. Something that I've seen firsthand. So you would think again, how can anybody, having gone through the experience that they went, how can anybody ever be fooled and say, oh, maybe I should duplicate what they're doing? And the Torah says clearly, you should remember like this. On your own, you can never be guaranteed. You can never be sure. The only thing that guarantees it, the only thing that gives you strength to carry through your life is to remember that Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am your God. Remember your connection, your relationship to Hashem, then you can carry through. To say that on your own, oh, this is abomination, this is disgusting, I can never fall into it, that is not the case at all. And this is how it's connected to the beginning of the Pasha. The beginning of the Pasha says, no, the beginning of the next Pasha actually. The next Pasha says, Kdoshim tihiyu, should be holy, ki kodesh ani Hashem mekadishkem, because I am holy. The holiness that Yidden have is not a holiness that they get in and of themselves. It's a holiness because Hashem chose them, selected them to be His people, and because of that relationship, this is why it's possible for them to be holy. And this is something which the Torah directs us to always remember. We are not on your own. The only way that you can stay on the path is to remember that God is the one who elevated you, who took you out of Mitzrayim, who drew you out and elevated you, gave you a Torah, and He relates to you. Without that, just as a human being, forget it, this is not an assurance at all. And the person can go up and down in no time. The Alter Rebbe says, based on the Gemara, that when a person, Chas v'Sholom, does an Aveira, the Gemara says that this is because of Ruach Shtus. Did you learn that part in the Tanya? So Ruach Shtus. In other words, at this moment, he's like a shaita. A shaita means a person who is a fool, who is not sensitive to what's happening to him. And from this shtus, from this foolishness, this person is insensitive, he can go up and down, up to the highest levels, come down to the lowest level, and he doesn't realize how completely opposite and contrary and incompatible. Everybody knows what means incompatible? These two things are. Just to bring things straight to the sharpest point, I'd like you to understand, and always remember, if you have a good day, you davened well, you learned well, and you feel elevated, that is the time to remember, I better watch out not to make a mistake. That's the time not to trust yourself. I don't mean to be a killjoy, you know what I'm saying? To take away your joy and your happiness. Absolutely, you should be happy. But I want you to continue to be happy. And the only way you can continue to be happy is to remember that at the time of your happiness, that's the time to pull all the strings and to be very careful what you see, what you hear, what you do.
If you start to think about it, you're going to start to get worse.
You don't have to start to think about it. You have to remember and don't let this... You can fool yourself. Only a fool fools himself. We're talking about a person who makes a mistake, not who intentionally fools himself. You have to remember, you want to continue. You're happy, you accomplish, you want to continue. The only way to continue is to put discipline and to remember that you have to be in control and not trust yourself.
What kind of mistake?
What kind of mistakes? I don't know so much about you on an individual basis. But I know guys, I know boys, I know bochrim. I know, generally speaking, what type of difficulty, what type of nisyonos it's called, what type of interests can draw a person. You feel very good. You feel good about yourself. I really accomplished. I'd like to go to the movies. What's going to happen? I don't know if any one of you goes to the movies, but I hope not. Especially nowadays, it's poison to the soul. But I'm just giving you the idea. Of course it's possible to think like this, especially if a friend calls you up. Yeah, I feel good about myself. Yeah, let me enjoy it. And you don't even realize, you're not sensitive. Oh, I learned well, so I might as well. That's the time when he gets killed, when you get killed by it. Can you imagine? You stand on Yom Kippur, in the middle of the holiest day of the year, and you're all fasting. You stay in shul the whole day. Practically, you hardly walk out. And you sit there and daven. All of a sudden, to Mincha comes Kriyas HaTorah and start talking about wild things. It's clear that if you want to be holy, and reach holiness, reach purity, and stay there, you have to take care of everything. You can't take for granted anything. I'm going to go into the next parsha, Parshas Kdoshim. Kdoshim, as the name itself implies, is a very, very special parsha. The name of the parsha itself is Kdoshim Tiyu, and Hashem says to Yidden, you should be holy, because I am holy. That, just in these words alone, lies a tremendously powerful message that Hashem tells us. Hashem is where? Hashem is b'shamayim. We are here. And Hashem says to us that you and I have a partnership. We are very close together. And we are so close that because I am holy, you're going to be holy. It reflects itself. And you can be holy because I'm giving you the strength, and I have a special relationship with you. I want to take a couple of mitzvahs in the Pasha Kdoshim. Pasha Kdoshim, by the way, is the Pasha that contains most mitzvahs. There's no Pasha in the Torah that has as many mitzvahs as Pasha Kdoshim. It's a Chumash Vayikra. I'm sure you're aware. Chumash Vayikra has most of the mitzvahs. And Pasha Kdoshim has the most mitzvahs within Chumash Vayikra. One of the mitzvahs in Pasha Kdoshim, you didn't get to it yet, but you will get to it soon, Mitzvah Shem, is the mitzvah of Orla. Orla means that when a person plants a tree in Eretz Yisrael, so the first 3 years of the fruit of the planting of the tree, the first 3 years, one must not eat this fruit. It's osir. It's a regular apple, but you can't eat it. It's called orla. Then there is the 4th year, where the fruit becomes holy. Just the opposite. Here it was orla, and then it becomes holy, where you have to eat the fruit in Yerushalayim, like Ma'aser Sheni. And then there is the 5th year and on, then that's when you're allowed to eat the fruit in a normal way. And the Torah says that this is lohoisif lochem tu osei, that all this whole process is in order to increase the fruit, in order to increase the produce that this tree is going to produce. There's a sikha from Rebbe, where the Rebbe explains a Rashi, and the result of this explanation is, and the Rebbe points out, that in this particular instance, this particular mitzvah, when you plant a tree and you throw away the fruit of the first 3 years, and then the 4th year you go to Yerushalayim, you have in mind, normally when you do mitzvahs, you don't have in mind for any kind of benefit. You do a mitzvah because Hashem said a mitzvah. Here, you have in mind that you're doing all of this in order that the produce of the fruit should be increased, should be successful. And I want to speak about this whole concept of Orla, and then Kodesh, and then the 5th year, how this applies to our own lives. You know that our minhag is that a child, a boy, we don't cut his hair till his 3rd birthday. You're aware of this, all of you? Till his 3rd birthday, we don't cut his hair. And then we cut his hair, and we cut his hair al pidin. We let his sideburns, the payas, uncut. And from then on, we begin to train and to get him used to doing mitzvahs, put in tzitzis, make a bracha, and so forth. As a matter of fact, it was in Hayom. You learned Hayom every day, right? And recently, this was in Hayom. What's the principle behind this? And how does it apply to us? Perhaps I will start right away from how it applies to us, because we will be more readily, we'll be able to understand, and then we'll translate it in the Chumash.
Is this the first of all, is it a mitzvah not to cut his hair for 3 years? And is this mitzvah enumerated in this parsha?
No, it's a minhag. It's a minhag. We have to always remember, and I mentioned it under different circumstances, that although we hear about what's called Balei Tshuva, which means we came to Yiddishkeit after 3 years old, so we didn't go through the normal process of going through 3 years and then beginning slowly to be introduced to mitzvahs and so forth. We came at a much advanced stage. Does that mean that therefore the richness that the normal raising of a child, the normal growth of a child, is lost to us? Does that mean we can't have it? We can't have the similar richness of growth? Particularly when the Rebbe says that this is lahoisiv lachem tuosi, this is in order to increase the produce. In order to increase the produce, you have to go through this process. So, what does this mean? That we're missing it out? Chas v'sholom, nobody misses it out. But we have to understand how that applies. In coming to Yiddishkeit, there are several stages. Based on this parsha of Orla, there are 3 stages. The first stage is what's called the stage of Orla. What is the stage of Orla? You come into it. You don't know anything about it. And you are not in a position to understand and to be able to scrutinize. Everybody knows what scrutinize means? Investigate it, dig in, try to understand detailed. What does it mean? How do I understand it? How do I relate to it? Just like a child doesn't know what's going on with him. He just lives in a Jewish home. That's all it is. That's all he knows. He has no idea what it means. So the first period of a person coming into Yiddishkeit is a period what's called absorption. A person has to absorb, has to integrate and feel comfortable in the environment. It's not the time to try to understand in detail what it means, because he does not yet have the means to understand it, the means to relate to it. You have to get acclimated. A Yid, whether he is born into Yiddishkeit or he comes into Yiddishkeit, Yiddishkeit is something that belongs to every Yid. And ultimately, he has to feel completely at home with Yiddishkeit. He can't feel like a stranger who is doing something right from wrong. He has to be his. He has to feel at home. He has to feel like this is his. He has to acclimate to it. It's an interesting phenomenon that Yiddishkeit, Torah is called Judaism, Yiddishkeit. Why is it called Yiddishkeit? It's Torah. Mitzvahs. Hashem's mitzvahs. Why is it called Yiddishkeit? The answer is that the Torah so well fits with the Yiddish neshama that in fact it's Yiddishkeit. It's not just a general rule. As a matter of fact, anyone who is not Jewish, if he wants to keep the Torah, we don't let him. The Torah itself says, no, that's not for you. You're not even allowed to do it. You're not allowed to keep Shabbos. Why not? because it doesn't fit you, you don't belong there. It fits only to a Yid. So when we come to Yiddishkeit, the first period has to be a period where we begin to feel, we get the sense, this is mine. This is not something that I'm learning that somebody else is telling me. This belongs to me. Only after that one recognizes and feels that this is his, that he and Yiddishkeit is one thing, then he can begin to try to understand more in detail, more in depth, what does it say, what does it mean, because his mind begins to open up. As long as one learns something that somebody else is saying, it's not his, he is going to have 100 different questions before he learns anything, because it's all a strange thing. So the first approach to Yiddishkeit is this is the meaning, like we spoke one time before, the meaning of being in a yeshiva. You're learning from books. You're not learning from the tables and chairs. What's the idea of being in a yeshiva? Being in a yeshiva is to be saturated, to be involved, engrossed and enclosed in this environment, to get the feel, get the sense that this is something that belongs to me and I belong to it. We're not strangers. After that, and only after that, can one approach to try to learn in detail, understand personally, what does this mean, what's the reason for that, and so forth. And this is what the Torah says. There are 3 stages that a person goes through. The first stage is what's called Orla. He's just there, he doesn't know exactly what he's doing, but he gets to know that this is his place. This is his. This belongs to him. Kdoshim to you, Hashem says, I am holy, so you're holy. Finished. The second stage is when he begins to understand it, and he sees, these are all holy things. This is a mitzvah, this is a wonderful thing. He gets all excited about the wonderful things that he's learning. So this is wonderful, this is very good, but that's still not the normal thing. It's like going to Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is not the normal place where a person lives. He lives all over the world, all over Eretz Yisrael. The 5th year, after that, this is when Yiddishkeit and living like a Yid and keeping mitzvahs becomes a normal thing. A completely normal thing. It's no longer something that's taking him to the sky, something that's taking him away from himself. This is something which is his, and he feels perfectly at home with it. And whatever he learns, whatever he does, it is in his world. It is not something that takes him away from himself. You learned, what the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, he says that the Torah is nimshal olamayim, right? Torah is likened, is compared to water. Why water? Why water?
I could guess.
No, don't guess.
I don't know.
Don't guess. I said that you learn it. Huh? Water, because water by nature comes down, descends to the lowest place. Torah also comes down to us. Later on in Chumash Dvarim, you'll see Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Eden, the Torah is not in the heavens. The Torah is not across the seas. It's very close to you. It's right here. There's no demand for you to go to I'm sorry? Yeah. Right, that's based on the Pasuk in Dvarim. It's not far. That's when it begins to really develop, when it's in your world. And this is what the Torah says. You go through this process properly, then lohoishif lochem tu'osei. Then it increases and it grows by leaps and bounds. Everything you learn develops. Everything you learn sticks with you. Everything you learn makes sense. And it continues to grow indefinitely. A different process would not permit this type of growth. This is the same as a tree. In order for a tree to produce a fruit, it's not just the size of the tree, how it grows. It depends also how deep and strong its roots are, and how far the roots are from water. The real produce of the tree is depending not on the size of the tree, but it depends on the roots. This process is what throws roots in Yiddishkeit. Roots, shoroshim. It's not just what one knows, what one learns. It's how deep and strong are the roots. How much he feels that this is his, how much he feels that this belongs to him and he belongs to it. That's the strength of Yiddishkeit. If you have a house, imagine this big, beautiful building, it doesn't have foundation. How long will it stand? Couldn't last. In California, there are earthquakes. So the way they build the houses, I don't know exactly what their cheshbon is, but they build houses without foundations. So the houses stand on the mountain. These are expensive houses, very wealthy, millions of dollars houses, and they stand on a mountain. And then there is some kind of avalanche, some kind of a big rain, and the whole house swims down the mountain. Nothing left. We have to understand, we have to be rooted in Yiddishkeit, not just to know what we learn. Rooted means that, as I said before, we belong to it. And let's examine, practically speaking, what that means. You are here in yeshiva, and each one of you is a smart man. You're not little children. Some of you older, some of you younger, but nevertheless, you are mature people. And each one of you has an opinion, has an idea what he thinks is right, what he thinks is good. You have to understand, though, that your greatest source of success, that your learning should be continuously increase and grow, is not to follow your own opinion, but to follow that which your Rosh Yeshiva, which your teacher tells you. Because he is rooted in this. He is not just telling you, an idea. He is rooted. He is actually in this, founded in this. And when one is outside, he has a different opinion, different understanding than one who's inside. Your greatest success is to be on the inside. Be on the inside means that you follow this Dorim, You do exactly what the Seder is. You don't make your own times, your own learning. You do exactly what the Seder Yeshiva is. Any deviation from that, you are estranging yourself, and you're losing the root. You're losing the connection. And if without a root, the biggest tree topples down, doesn't stand. There's another mitzvah in this parsha. As I said, this parsha is rich in mitzvahs. I'm going to touch another mitzvah in this parsha, also based on the Sikha from Rebbe. The mitzvah that deals with weights, with scales, that the Torah says that you must have honest weights. You know, the scales that we have today is built completely differently. They're computerized scales, but digitized. But the original scale was built around two plates that were hanging down from a single pivot. And when you put the weight on one side and you put the fruit on the other side, you know how much fruit you're having. You understand the basic scale. So the Torah says that you're not allowed to have a weight, a measure that is incorrect. In other words, if you have a piece of a measure that's built like a measure, like a weight, and it says over here 1 pound, and it's not exactly 1 pound, it's 1 pound less a bit. So if you use this actually to sell your produce in your store, you're being a thief. That's clear. You're not allowed to be a thief. You're not allowed to steal. That's obvious. But the Torah says more than that. The Torah says not just that you're not allowed to sell, to undersell. That's thievery. You're not allowed to keep it in your house.
Torah says it, Torah.
No, the Torah says Lo yiyeh b'chischa. You shouldn't be. You're not allowed to have it in your house. Even if you're putting it away, you're not going to use it. You put it with your children's toys. You can't have it in the house. As I said, there's a Sikha of Rebbe on this, explaining a Rambam and all that. But again, I'm interested in what we can draw from this, because the Sikha, Baruch Hashem, you can learn yourselves, and the Rambam you can learn yourselves. I want to talk to you what we can draw from this. You have to reflect and understand what are the standards that the Torah gives us. What type of person does the Torah expect and want us to be? That you should not steal, that's uniform, that's universal, that's obvious. But that you should not have something that is incorrect, that is untrue in your house, that's a completely different thing. The Jewish home is a home where Hashem is present. The Rebbe told us, I'm sure you noticed in Crown Heights and many other places, that every house should have a plaque on it to say Beis Chabad. The Rebbe actually asked for it. We should put a Beis Chabad sign on the house, on the door. It's a Beis Chabad. Imagine it's a Beis Chabad and it has something dishonest. Doesn't fit. Doesn't fit. In the Jewish home, Hashem is present. And everything that's in our home has to be something that we can proudly show to Hashem. It should be fitting. Even more importantly, you have to remember that Hashem says, Kdoshim tiyu ki kodesh ani. You should be holy because I am holy. In other words, you, every one of us, represents Hashem. And therefore, what we think in our mind and what we feel in our heart is representative of Hashem's presence. And if we are, Chas v'sholom, being dishonest, even if it doesn't hurt anybody, like I have it in my pocket, it doesn't belong in the presence of Hashem. We don't finagle. We have to go straight and do things straight. That's when Hashem is with us. And this is the koyan that Hashem gives us. He says, you are holy because I'm holy. Even to the extent that even if you don't do anything wrong, just you shouldn't have anything that is dishonest. There's a pasuk I'm thinking when the pasuk is, I think it's either in Mishlah or in Kehelis. I'm not sure. The pasuk says like this: Elokim also as ha'odam yosher, v'heim ochishvu chishboinus rabim, which means Hashem made the human being, ha'odam, the person, yosher. Yosher means straight and upright. Hashem made, He gave a person the soul, the intelligence, the qualities to be honest and straight. And if a person goes straight, without falseness, without deviation, without dishonesty, even on the smaller scale, just straight out, then he is actually following in the path that Hashem put him on. And there is no way that he can fail. And moreover, not only he can fail, he, like I said before, a Yid and Torah fit like a glove, a hand in a glove. And he feels really that he fits his life, he can relate to his life. He can be absolutely relate to it. This is a real world, a real life, a real path. The minute he starts making cheshbonos, cheshbonos rabim, he starts making cheshbonos. Maybe I should say this, maybe I should say that, maybe I can finagle here, maybe I can finagle there. This is where he breaks away from this path that Hashem put him on. In Poland, in the what we can call today the old Poland, because it was all destroyed. There's nothing left after the war. But the story is told in terms of describing the mentality that people lived under, because Yidden lived under these regimes that were not favorable to Yidden, did not understand Yidden, did not welcome them, and made Yidden all kinds of different difficulties. As a result of that, Yidden had to be very smart and figure out things. They couldn't be honest, because if they were honest, they would not survive a day with the goy. Unfortunately. So the story is that this couple had a baby boy, had a boy. So the father comes to the Rav and he says, Rebbe, my wife just had a little boy. Oh, Mazel Tov, great, you should have a lot of nachas. Rebbe, but I have a problem. How should I register the boy? Should I register the boy that he was born yesterday? Or should I register him that he was born tomorrow? What's the idea? Well, if he was born yesterday, then he would become 18 years old a day earlier. 18 is the time of conscription when you have to start serving in the army, or at least register. If he was born tomorrow, he would become 18 a day later. So which one is better? The Rebbe says, a day earlier, why not register him that was born today? He says, what wisdom! What smart! I couldn't even think of it. This was circumstance. But we must understand that we have the opportunity to live a straight and upright life. We are now in a completely different circumstance. We don't have, and the main thing, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with Hashem. We have to be honest with our Chaverim. We have to be honest with our Hola for the yeshiva. We have to be honest with the yeshiva. That's the main thing. If you want to be successful, that is the key. And honest does not mean I'm not saying a lie. Honest means that I can't even think of a lie. I don't have it in my pocket. I don't have such a thing. It doesn't exist. That's what honest means, apir Torah. That's what's called honesty of a holy people. And this is the key to real success in the yeshiva, and then Mitzvah Shem, out of the yeshiva, you become one with Yiddishkeit, you live with it, you thrive in it, and it grows indefinitely on a continuous basis. And it can grow indefinitely. Like a tree that has sound, strong roots, it can grow big and big and big, and it's strong. No wind can topple it, because it's rooted. The roots for your life you're getting right now. And you better let them go and sap in and get all the strength that you can, all the vitamins that you can. With Hashem's help, you will reflect on this, each one in his own way, each one in his own perspective that he needs to know, and understand the significance of this idea that you have to have sound roots. These roots have to be without a blemish. They have to be able to take in food from the ground, and only then can you be strong and healthy. Do you understand the allegory of all this? You should grow, and you should reach the 5th year, according to this thing, in the 5th year where the produce begins to grow and bloom and increase without limit. Mitzvah Shem. L'chaim.
That's to take 5 years.
No. The 5th year is allegorically speaking.
Okay.
No, it doesn't take 5 years of it. Huh?
I'm not waiting. It's gonna take 5 years. It's gonna take 5 years.
What do you mean by living a normal life? Because he doesn't have a normal life, so I don't know how you live a normal life. What do you mean?
I'll answer you, but you have to be honest and take it seriously. It means getting up on time, going to Seder, davening, eating breakfast, learning,